Take it back. Take it back.
Well, all right. At this time, it is 6:30. I'm going to call our meeting to order. Dave, you do a roll call for us, please.
Cody?
Present.
Mark?
Present.
Ann is online, I believe.
Yes.
Jennifer?
Present.
And I am present.
Okay. Those that are able, please stand for the pledge. The flag is in the back corner there. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Board of Education guidelines. With an open mind, we'll establish an atmosphere that allows expression of all views, even when views are not in line with all members, being respectful of time. We will work collaboratively with the district administrator by having open and honest conversations around district priorities. We'll work collaboratively with all stakeholders to monitor key indicators of equitable teaching and learning results in high achievement. We'll work toward building a trusting environment where both students and staff can reach their full potential and celebrate successes in academics, the arts, and athletics. Public comments. During the public comment period of the agenda, the board welcomes comments from the public on any item not on the agenda, or if you wish to comment on the item on the agenda. Please note that pursuant to state law, the board cannot engage in conversation with you, but may ask questions. The board may refer the item to staff, a standing committee, or a future agenda for discussion and action. Each person wishing to speak will have up to 3 minutes to speak. Speakers are asked to provide their name, address, and topic for discussion. So at this time, with those online or in person, are there any public comments tonight?
Yeah, I would like to speak.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Let me make sure let me turn off oh, wrong one. Let me stop presenting. And, all right.
Hi, my name is Audrey Baxter. I do apologize for not being able to be there in person. Both of my kiddos are sick. My husband Will is on his way. Hopefully he will be there shortly.
He's here.
Perfect. So most of you guys probably know me by now, but if not, I have twins in first grade at Humpty. I am here to speak again about the unwelcoming and strict visitor policy that the school has in place for the morning routine. I first would like to thank the board for finally putting this on the board meeting agenda. And I truly do look forward to listening to the discussion that will happen later on in this meeting. Once again, I am asking for reasonable compromise to allow parents limited access to the school during the time of 8 to 8:40, which is not instructional time. I ask the board to create an addendum or written clarity to the current policy that would clearly lay out a pathway that would balance the needs of the students that want their parents involved in their morning routine and keeping our children safe. I don't believe these two things are mutually exclusive. I don't believe that we have to pick one or the other. By using the tools we already have in place, that the school already has in place for visitors, and creating a detailed policy addendum or clearly writing it out, we can achieve both of these things. Another topic on the agenda I would like to address is EO3, treatment of stakeholders. I was able to attend and listen to the board workshop last week. I was also able to read the internal monitoring report regarding this. What surprised me was that there was no discussion about parents as stakeholders at the meeting, and in the report, parents/community were a mere footnote. Does this administration not view parents as a stakeholder in our children's education? The examples given in the report on how the district is working on maintaining an open, responsive, and welcoming environment did not include even one example that involved parents. Each example only regarding staff. Staff is obviously a huge stakeholder, but I ask the administration to please view parents as equally important stakeholders. I found the report to be incomplete because of the lack of substantial inclusion of any other stakeholders except for staff. I ask the board to consider this before approving this operational report and find the report not to be in full and complete compliance. I would like to take a quote from that report to tie it into my first topic. The report talked about addressing complaints brought to the district level. I quote, "The most successful means of handling complaints has been to involve those with the complaints in finding solutions to the challenges they bring forward," end quote. I asked the administration and board to do just that regarding the morning routine policy. Find a solution, please. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Aubrey.
Audrey.
Audrey, sorry. More public comments for tonight, online or in person? Go ahead.
Will Beckstrom. I'm here tonight to address parental access and involvement in education. I am once again asking this board to hold the administration accountable to a plain reading of board policy with regard to access to our schools and parental involvement. We as parents are the chief stewards of our children's education. School safety is paramount. There are far more greater security concerns within our schools than parents. Bullying is on the rise at Humke. My son was one such victim of bullying this year and within the last 2 weeks. The culture at Humke has been seriously diminished in the last 12 months. No longer is it this happy vibe. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. We have not been there to see it, to witness it. Our interactions with teachers are greatly curtailed and limited only to parent square and back and forth. No longer is there this interpersonal relationship and an access to discuss our children's education. We have unfenced playground areas. My son has elopement issues. He wears a monitor that tells us where he is. When he was bullied, he could have ran off. There was 2 adults on the playground for 80 children. And we get a phone call explaining that he was pushed by another student and no real explanation beyond that. The supervision was intervening. These weren't things that we experienced last year. They just weren't. We were in the building. We got to speak with the educators. We got to be a part of the education. I can't count the number of things that I brought in and donated just because we saw they were missing or the teachers mentioned it to us. We've had only a couple conversations with my son's teacher, and those are because of his IEP and our 6-week check-ins. My daughter's teacher, parent school conferences, 15 minutes. 15 minutes to discuss your child's education. That's great. We had a scheduled meeting with the reading person for 15 minutes via Zoom. They didn't even show for it. I allotted over 30 minutes out of my schedule in which I work over 12 hours a day managing one of the largest businesses in our area. For me to take 30 minutes is a big undertaking, and I can't even get them to show, to discuss that. That's pretty sad. We need to do better, and it begins with parents being involved in the education. Not only accessing the schools outside of instructional time, being able to walk our children in, but just to be present. When you take the parents out of the educational process, it is the beginning of the end, and we can allow for it. This board needs to understand there are ramifications from their actions. Thank you.
Thank you, William. Online or in person, any more public comments for tonight?
I do. Rachel Sievers, parent of a student at Humke, and I am here to speak on the fact that I deeply appreciate this new policy for the safety of all of the children and the betterment of them in their building. I represent a population of parents who do not have the ability to drop our children off in the morning, so we trust that the adults in that building are who keep our children safe. We have deeply rooted conversations about the purpose and the role that the adults in that building are trained to play in their lives, and believe that teaching and coaching them how to transition that trust to those people, the moment education comes into conversation in the morning when they are dropped at that door, is when it's most meaningful to them. Me trusting those adults, my children hearing my husband and I talk about those adults in a very positive way within our home. We reference about they know where to go if they do not feel safe, and that they have many adults in their life that care about them, their safety and their well-being. I firmly believe will help them be a better rounded older child in older schools. I work in a high school. I see a lot of anxiety in my position, and I firmly believe that having children have a large range of people to trust at a young age is what can help support them through those times when they are older as well. I know of individuals that have been escorted for many, many, many years and struggled when that was taken away, and that was difficult. But I also believe that it has also helped them feel and acknowledge other safe spaces within the school, and that other people can help protect them as well. I will also say that my oldest daughter does have some tendencies of anxiousness as well as some lack of organization. And I have never struggled to communicate with any of her teachers via email or asking them to call me. So I do feel that if asked, those teachers have been very responsive to my needs as a parent.
Thank you. And unfortunately, your 3 minutes are up.
Yep,
But thank you, Rachel. Online and in-person public comments. All right. If that is it for public comments tonight, we will move forward on showcasing schools and student learning. We have Jimmy Herman tonight to give us an update on CWSA.
Yeah, so the students are doing awesome. We just had our showcase on November 2nd. I hear it went really well. And we're looking at, some interesting new projects coming up too, including a lot of making products. So soaps, candles, and body wash. So I'm curious to see how those turns out. So really fun and exciting, something that people can take home with them. Also, we're looking to do more family events this year. So we just finished up our fall family event. We're trying to do more and build more of that community for the school. So we have one down and we're trying to get 2 more done this year. And if you're all curious, you can see on Facebook. So we have a lot of good pictures. Also, I'd like to thank help with getting emails set up for all of us on the council. That's been really huge for us to organize ourselves, help us and make sure that all our documents are on one place. And as well help with transition and turnover within this governance board. So,
Questions for Jimmy?
yeah, please.
It's nice to see you here. I think this
Yeah.
is your first board meeting, so. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jimmy. We're gonna move forward with communicating with the board superintendent's report. Nathan?
Yes, and just don't have a lot of additional things that are not on the agenda, but just a thing I'd like to note is that over the last couple of weeks, Keith Johnson and I met together with Jackie Cole. Jackie is the she's the president of the Rome Town Board. She came and spoke at the last board meeting as well, and extended an invitation for looking at ways in which we could work together as far as placements for students at Nekoosa High School to be able to work together with Sand Valley, Town of Rome, in ways that other school districts are as well. Looking for potential ways for example, as we have Alexa Bareboom here is a student member of the school board to be able to look at options to see if some similar situation could be set up in the Town of Rome for student representation, have them opportunities. And so anyways, it was a useful afternoon, and we appreciate Jackie reaching out to us on those fronts, and we'll just keep you, as those connections continue on, we'll keep the board updated on those fronts.
Well, thank you, Nathan. Any follow-up questions from the board? All right, Lynn Knight, our business manager, compensation committee report.
So just as a follow-up to Nathan's report, Nathan and I will be at the town of Rome doing a little presentation tomorrow night just to talk to them about the budget, referendum, and the good things that are happening in our school. So, second, I have Mr. Al Kreider here, and he is going to give a short update on the compensation committee and our progress.
Can I take a seat at the table?
Of course.
So it was, I don't know how many years ago, 6, 7, when a group of teachers heard that compensation was going to be looked at again. And I wound up sending Lynn an email and asking if I could meet with her, and a couple of teachers came. I think I sat right here, Lynn sat over there, and we asked these questions, and Lynn said, you know, we're going to get a committee together next year to study compensation, and I think it would be great if you would be on that committee. And I just probably did one of these, because I've been on lots and lots of committees, and sometimes you come out of those committees and a lot of time investment, and you think, okay, did I really invest my time wisely? But I did take up her challenge, and I said, yes, I can do that, and I am so glad I did. Because really that was the beginning of a really good working relationship with Lynn. So we looked at compensation. We had, about 10 members, 10 teacher representatives that had numerous meetings with Lynn and with Rick. And we looked at the compensation model at the time and looked at ways that we might be able to improve that compensation model. So as a result of our meetings, things that we were looking for was consistent compensation among staff, and an ability for staff members to predict their own financial futures, as well as the district being able to adjust and to plan for the financial future of the district as well. We wanted a system that valued longevity. Now, I always wondered about making this comment of saying that I really believe that teachers are the stability of the district. Now, I'm sure that won't come as any surprise to you from a teacher saying that, but I have just numerous examples this year of how my longevity in the Nekoosa School District has really played lots of benefits. I can't even tell you how many kids I have this year that I've taught their parents or I've taught their siblings. And in fact, I was just thinking on the drive here, I think I have 3 former students that are now colleagues of mine in the Nekoosa School District. Been around that long. And it pays lots of benefits when you have longevity and you have deep connections. I could give lots of examples, and I won't for the sake of time, but earlier this year there was a student that was a significant behavior problem in my classroom, and through Parent Square I had a number of chats with mom, and the mom said, hey, can we have a meeting? And so we scheduled one for after school, and she came down with her son, and we're sitting at the table, and I started talking about some things that I could see as concerns and ways for her student to improve. And then I will never forget as long as I live. She just looked at her child and said, what do you have to say? And he had not much to say. And she had a lot to say. And she said, Mr. Kreider has taught 5 of our family members. And I know that he is a professional and he is a man to respect, and you will respect him. I can tell you my relationship with that child has changed a lot. And when I talk to him now about behavior, and I know what your mother expects, and we expect the same things happen. So we wanted a model that valued longevity. And we wanted Nekoosa teachers to come. We wanted Nekoosa teachers to stay and have a long-term impact on the community and on the schools. We wanted a model that allowed for professional growth and for teachers to have some say in their own professional growth. And a number of years ago, compensation had ended for teachers getting master's degrees or pursuing that. And then national board certification came out, and we looked as a committee, okay, how are ways that we can encourage our staff members to pursue national board certification? Because we really believe that is a transformational program for teachers. And so we wanted to work at a way to include that. And we also wanted to, if possible, seek to close pay gaps between Nekoosa and other school districts. Now, Wisconsin Rapids has long been the golden child for compensation. And I remember a really long time ago, I had an opportunity to go teach in Wisconsin Rapids. And the pay would have been a solid 10,000 more per year than I was making here. But I really liked the small town, I liked the small school district, decided no, I wanted to stay here in Nekoosa, so glad I did. So that was a 10,000 pay gap a long time ago. Well, I'm not exactly sure of the pay gap now, but I can tell you it is less than 10,000. And in a number of ways, teachers teaching in Nekoosa are better off financially than in Wisconsin Rapids. I honestly never thought I would be able to come to the board and say that Nekoosa is a better place financially to teach. There is a staff member in my building who's, in fact, two of them, whose spouses teach in Rapids. And so I've had the direct connection. I asked them, tell me about the compensation in Rapids. And Nekoosa compares very favorably or is better than Rapids in many regards. So that was another goal, was to close the local pay gaps. Mentioned national board certification, and that we were really looking for a compensation model that would encourage that. Currently, there are 12 Nekoosa teachers that either have submitted their work for national board certification or are in process of working toward it. Now, I don't know how much you know about national board certification, and maybe at another time, another board meeting, I would encourage you to meet with teachers and have them come and share the program with you and what they've learned. And it's a very rigorous nationally certified program that really the focus is having direct impact on kids in the classrooms. And I believe in it super strongly. And I think it is incredibly exciting that 12 of our Nekoosa teachers are actively involved in that program. And that's a credit to the board for looking at that program and saying, yes, we will support that. Another thing that was instituted in the model was that the building principals will have direct, what's the word I'm looking for? Direct, not influence, but direct knowledge of what their teachers are doing in the building that are either pursuing master's degree or national board certifications. So the teachers doing this, they have to submit a plan, which includes an end product. And then the principals, when they have completed that plan and that end product, the principals then sign off on that and it goes over to the administration office. So not only do they have an awareness, but then, I would hope that the principals would stay actively involved with the teachers that have completed those programs and continue to talk to them and share their knowledge and work with that in the classroom. So that national board certification thing was really amazing, really amazing. When I think of, okay, what are the challenges of the compensation model? I guess staying the course is one of my concerns. This model's been in place, is it 6 years now, Lynn?
6 years, yeah.
So the model's been in place 6 years. And I would suggest to you that the model has shown itself to be effective, that it has done a good job of retaining Nekoosa teachers. One of those goals, I don't think I mentioned it before, was we didn't want teachers to leave Nekoosa because of finances. We didn't want them to go down the road because they were going to get more pay. We wanted the pay to be competitive here. I believe the starting salary is right in line, but the opportunities for growth and advancement here in this system far outweigh local districts. And I think that you will find that Nekoosa teachers have stayed around and this model is part of that. So staying the course, because boards change, teaching staff changes, administrators change, people in the administrative office change. We don't all hang on forever. And transferring the knowledge when change happens and staying the course, that's a challenge. Remaining consistent. A whole bunch of years ago, there was concern among teachers of how much are they making? How much are they making? It's easy to say, well, you shouldn't be concerned about that. Those are catty little things. And at some level, I understand that. But at some level, you want to know that, hey, am I being compensated fairly compared to my peers? I know the challenges the board faces specifically of recruiting and getting business ed teachers, technology teachers, math and science teachers. That's a challenge. And it's really that open market for people with those degrees. And the challenge is to the board, how do you get those people when there's a bidding war? What do you do? I don't have the answer. I don't. But I know it's a challenge, and that's something, and I'm sure you do handle it carefully. It's just one of those from the teachers things, handle that carefully when you're looking at paying this teacher more than that because of their certifications. So there's that. And I think those are really the things that I wanted to share with you. And I know some of you that have been on the board a while, you've probably heard those very similar things from me before, but we have a couple of new board members too. And another thing that I think the compensation model does very well, and Lynn can speak to this a whole lot better than I can, but it is dependent on what the state provides to the district. And we understood that when this model got started. In talking to Lynn, she said, I believe in this. I think the board will believe in this. It might take a couple of years to get this thing where we want it to be. We might have to be patient. Teachers, you might have to be patient. That was the message we brought to the teachers, and it did all work out. And I think that's a credit to the teaching staff, it's a credit to the committee, and it's a credit to Lynn and Rick. And from the teacher in the trenches, I hope you realize what you have in Lynn and Rick. And they are wonderful at their craft, and we have developed a trusting relationship between the administration office and the teachers. A lot of that started with Rick because he's been here forever. And he was a known entity. Lynn was not a known entity when we started this thing, and she is now. Like I said, the trust has been great. Is it a perfect model? No. Are there teachers at times that will have dissatisfactions? I'm sure. But I think overall, it is something that we can all be proud of.
So just as a clarification, I'm not that great. I work with a lot of great people. Second of all, it was 6 years ago when we first started talking about the compensation plan. It's actually been in place for 4 years. And just as a reminder, when we went to referendum, one of the goals of the referendum was to retain staff. And the way we retain staff is by paying them fairly. So the community understood why we were going to referendum, and we've kept our promise with every single referendum promise that we made. So again, we're in the 4th year of our referendum. Next year will be our last year of the referendum, which we will be talking about. Are we going back to referendum again? Yep, we sure are. Probably not for $2 million every year. It'll probably be a lot less. But once you get into that referendum cycle, it's very difficult to get out of it. So again, I think what we promised the community was to retain staff, and I do believe that we have retained staff, and we have actually retained the longevity of the staff that we absolutely need. So thank you, Al. I mean, I appreciate all your contributions.
Sorry, I talked a lot.
No, you don't.
I was going to show up with a slideshow. That probably would have kept me in check a little bit more, but I just went old school. So this is all my notes. I guess I said a lot more than was on my note there. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I did have one comment. I know when this first came up, the board at the time was very impressed with all the work in the committee and all the stuff that went together to make it happen. And just to hear about the retention and see the retention has gone a long way. So kudos to you guys and everyone here. So
well, kudos to the board, because I mean, you're the ones who adopted this and you listened, and we just I don't think we know the uniqueness we have in our community and in our district. I've been in other places where it hasn't been like this, so it's unique.
Follow-up questions for Lynn or Al? I just had one more. Then what time is the meeting in Rome tomorrow?
5 o'clock. 5 o'clock. Yeah. Last time, didn't you? Yep.
Perfect. We will move on then to the Director of Student Services, Brian Grew.
Thanks, Al.
I just have 3 quick updates for you for things that you'll be seeing coming actually potentially in January. So every January I come to you about open enrollment caps for special education. There are trainings that I've been attending. They are doing calculations differently starting this year. They are, instead of considering it caseloads for students with disabilities, they're now looking at what's considered workloads, where they look at not only minutes and services students receive, but what it entails to write an IEP, communicate with families, do all this. So now the calculations, you have to take all that into consideration, and they're coming out with some new forms for us to learn how to calculate it differently. So just be aware that when I come with open enrollment caps, it will look differently. And I'll just have to spend a little more time explaining what that process looks like. The other thing I've been working on too that's taking a chunk of time. So back in 2016 was the last time the state did an evaluation. It used to be every 5 years, but COVID happened. So now it's coming back now 7 years later, where we're doing a self-evaluation of pupil non-discrimination. And what this one looks at though, it doesn't look at the whole entity, it looks at our scholarships and who is receiving scholarships. It looks like at our sports participation and our extracurricular participation. So it doesn't cover the whole gamut. What they do with every 5 years is they look at different components of it. So I'm working on collecting the data to say, where are we as a district? And that needs to be presented to you as a board and a form submitted to DPI saying, yep, that self-evaluation was complete by January 31st. So that'll be on the January board agenda. And then lastly, we have, Rachel's and my favorite time of year. We start applying for ACT accommodations this time of year for our juniors who will be taking the ACT in February this year. March, okay. So, but they're due in January, but we get that going by December. So those are the big projects right now in student services. So it's a busy time of year.
Alright, well, any follow-up questions for Brian? Alright, thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Up next, Alexa, our student representative to the board.
I just have a couple things. So first, winter sports are fully underway. We have, I think I saw Brooke and them back there. But basketball, boys basketball, they have plenty of guys for 3 teams. I heard wrestling, they have a lot of girls especially, and they have enough. Lots of people out for wrestling, I've heard. I don't know if they would have anything else to add. Same thing with girls basketball. They have enough for 2 teams again this year, which is really great to hear. And then for student involvement at school, there's been lots of different opportunities. Student council went on a leadership conference today actually. Youth apprenticeship went on a field trip. The child development class went on a field trip. The psychology classes visited Humke to do some things with their child psychology lessons. And there's been like so many opportunities like that, and I'm really proud and excited to see that in our school, just to expand on our learning. So that's pretty much all I had.
So thank you very much. Any follow-up questions?
So what was the session that you guys went to today for?
I wasn't able to attend because it wasn't for seniors, it was just freshmen through juniors. But a lot of the people on the student council leadership team who aren't seniors went today, and it was just growing their leadership skills, how to communicate with people and grow within their school. So.
Awesome. Great opportunity.
And I just wanted to wish all those in the winter sports, those athletes good luck, and even those in the co-curriculars. So, any more follow-up questions? All right. We're head on to policy governance, policy 9150, school visitors discussion. Nathan?
Okay, thank you. And I am, so as part of, this has been an ongoing conversation for several months. And for those who are joining us, you're seeing it, let me provide a little bit of background information of the process up to this point before I turn this over to board discussion and those that they have asked to come speak today. So one of the notes is that, hang on, let me make sure I'm doing this correctly, okay, hang on, I shared the wrong one. Let's try that again. So specifically, as far as where a lot of the start is, so here is, I'm giving you, so at the beginning of this year, we had a new elementary principal, King Baker. And as part of that, there is routines and things that are written out at all things. They're called referred to as the blue binder at Humke. And this is one, and here is pretty much what was written. The note on this is updated July 2022. Expectations for students entering and exiting the building. As written, it says, during the first 2 weeks of school, parents will have the opportunity to come into the building and walk their children to the classroom. Check-in stations will be available at doors A. It was originally A and M, but that got amended to A. Greeters at these doors will ensure that the individuals sign and take a name badge. After the first 2 weeks, parents will be expected to hand off their children at the school door. Parents will only have access to entering the building through door A. Only the office staff will be responsible for admitting and welcoming guests into the building after the first 2 weeks of school. So a note on this routine is that this caught many of the parents by surprise, because as practiced in this one, as we learned, this was unknown to Ms. Baker, this is unknown to me either, is that the process at Humke was to allow parents to be able to accompany their children to the class during that period, up until about 8:40 and such. It was not intentional to be able to do misdirection. These were the instructions that were given. And one of the things that this was initially noted to be able to make that change in the previous school year, starting in 2022, but the decision was made after trying to implement this. Some parents expressed their concern with that, and then there was a reversal, and so what was on the books was different than the practice last year. And so just as a note, as a part of that, several parents who presented concerns, and I can certainly, if that has been the practice for the last couple of years, I certainly very well empathize and recognize that if that had been the practice of coming up to parent. And so several people felt an area of loss. The reasons that we went to be, and so as a note on this one, at this point, we started doing a lot of the primary reason for changing this one, and Ms. Baker will be speaking in a minute as you invited her to speak to, and so she can speak to some of those changes, and so I won't go too deeply in that one. But as is standard practice in public schools in the state of Wisconsin, is that is not a practice that is followed. It is, as far for security reasons, is one of the primary areas cited. That is and as the recommendation came on that one, we started following things up. For example, if there's something that I'm not aware of financially, I go to Lynn. You don't want me reconciling all the books that she's doing on that one. When we're talking about security issues, we work closely with the police department, with our school resource officer, and he will be and by the board's invitation, he'll be speaking today too. So I'll let him speak to some of the areas of what is considered best practice or standard practice in the Wisconsin public schools. Now, a note, there is a difference between public schools and private schools as various things, but as we started reaching out to various people, I spoke with several superintendents. Ms. Baker spoke with various principals, Officer Cole. Anyways, everyone involved, also our security team, reached out to their counterparts. And this is the practice as we're practicing it follows the school board policy. So let me scroll up here a little bit. Hang on, I need to admit. Oh, sorry, hit the wrong one. I need to say admit all. Admit, there it is, okay. Gotcha. Okay. So, hang on, just as have to make sure we're starting to work with Google. So this right here, let me just go briefly over what the policy itself says. And let me make sure that we've got the same thing, that we are on. So this is what it's, our Wisconsin, the school district and Nekoosa policy derives from Wisconsin state statute. This is what's given us by the legislature. They say, a school board may adopt rules applicable to persons who enter or remain in a building operated by the school board. And then it goes into more details specifically about it. So pretty much, and that they give the guidelines of visitor policies are basically the entity of the school board to adopt. And so looking further at this one, let me go ahead and scroll down here a little bit, and I'm going to zoom in so when we're here. So this is, it is longer than this. The link here is to 9150. The link that is on the agenda goes directly to our school board policy, but I quoted it here for purpose of discussion. The board welcomes and encourages visit to school by parents, other adult residents of the community, and interested educators. But in order for the educational program to continue undisturbed when visitors are present and to prevent the intrusion of disrupted persons into the school, it's necessary to establish visitor guidelines. In other words, it is put in for two reasons. You heard the safety concern, intrusion of disruptive persons. The other one is educational program to continue undisturbed. So first part of this one, in accordance with 120, which is what we just quoted, Wisconsin statutes, the district administrator has the authority to establish conditions for entering or remaining in a district building. So there were various questions that were raised by parents as they were looking at the policies. They're saying, who makes the final say on this? Is it the state? Who is it? just noting that according to the school board policy, it is the district administrator. And here's the specific statute, here's the specific policy as in the specific parts of it. It says, non-staff access to students and classes must be limited and only in accordance with a schedule which has been determined by the principal after consultation with the teacher whose classroom is being visited. Classroom visitations must be non-obtrusive to the educative process and learning environment and should not occur on an excessive basis. So as written out, it makes, and this policy, which is followed, by the way, if you look further into this one, this was initially written in 2013, 10 years ago. The most recent revision to it was 2019 for those purposes, and that's been in effect. And so just as a note that the practice that were done in Humke prior to that point was not in line with this. And as Audrey Bakestrom noted that she, in recommending an addendum, I agree with her that as written here, that does not allow for that practice to take place. Key things that fall into here under non-staff access is that during that period, and the practice as noted and again, I'm not saying 100% on there. Different school boards might have different policies, but it's standard practice in the state of Wisconsin to have, this is what is on the books, this is what is practiced, to be able to have the parents not in the building during that initial part for it. And so I give that as the background of the conversation. Now as this part, we've gone through processes. We've met with parents who have asked questions on that. We've met with HIPPO. And there was questions about that we referred to our district safety committee and had some meetings on that front. Last month in the October board workshop, we had open public comment and discussion back and forth that the board invited, and that lasted, that section of it lasted over an hour, so there was back and forth to be able to get some additional information about it. So we have been working through the processes for it. I received an invitation from board members to be able to hear specifically tonight some direct questions, as I mentioned earlier, from Kim Bakeberg, the Humke principal, as well as Officer Colo, our school resource officer on theirs. And so at this point, I would like to go ahead and I will start with Kim Bakeberg. And at this, I will go ahead and stop this sharing on here and invite Ms. Bakeberg to go ahead, turn on her camera, and go from there. Thank you.
So I guess I'd just like to open it up for questions. What questions does the board have?
I'll go first. So it sounds like the policy's been around since 2013 and then recently updated in 2019 for the last revision. Have the parents since the beginning of the school year been aware of the policy 9150 since the beginning of the school year?
My perception is that they were unaware that there was a policy that existed that was what I was following. Like Nathan had shown the blue binder, that was what I was under the impression that we were supposed to be following. And as we uncovered things, we discovered board policy. And so my job is to carry out board policy. So I am not sure if parents were unaware that that was a policy or if they, I guess what their perception was. I don't want to speak for them.
Thank you.
Comment here. This policy 9150 was written by Neola some years ago, and Neola is a company that hires lawyers to write policies for school districts, and they delve into the laws of the state of Wisconsin or other states. They work in other states as well. But if for Wisconsin, they delve into the laws that have been passed by the legislature, and they write policies that will effectively give the information to the school districts about what the actual law is that the legislatures had passed. And a few years back, we went from using all of these Neola policies, which is a stack of them, a huge stack of policies. We stopped using those policies as policies for the board to work with, and we started using policy governance, which meant that we wrote our own policies that would direct the principal, or the superintendent rather, on the things that the board wanted accomplished in our school district. So by doing that, we took those Neola policies and we turned those into administrative guidelines. And what that means is that the administrators use those policies or as administrative guidelines to run the district, do the things that they need to do in the school district. This is one of the things that is an administrative guideline, and as such, the board has no control over changing that. The only way that this policy or administrative guideline can be changed is if the legislature changes the law, and then Neola rewrites the law, rewrites the policy. So people that come to the board and say that we should change this policy, we don't have the control over that. This is something that the legislature in Madison has to take care of.
I would just like to talk, being a new board member, I understand where the parents are coming from, but I also understand overall the safety of all children. And this day and age, everything is so changed. We really need to keep our mind on what is best for all children and their safety. And the safety of the staff, the safety of everybody that goes to schools. Because it isn't like it was 20 years ago. And I highly recommend that you keep the policy the way that it is for the benefit of all our students in keeping them safe.
Thank you, Ann. More questions?
Kim, can you talk about what does the morning routine look like? So what does it look like this year compared to last year? And I know you might not have last year's, right? So maybe Nathan.
Well, I was gonna say, this year, clearly there's a change. Parents do drop off at the door and the students walk in. We still have a number of teachers and staff at the doors greeting. We also have many volunteers who are there every morning. And if any student is having a difficult time in the morning, there is an adult who is there who can either bring the student to the office, we can call the teacher, we can have the teacher come down, we can figure out who would maybe have a good relationship with the student, calm the student, be able to get the student to the classroom. I wanna give a shout out to, I know Ms. Hillmeyer, there was a student in her classroom who was kind of struggling with the new policy or the new change, I guess you would say. It's not a new policy, the policy's been there forever. But the new way of doing it, and she went above and beyond, and every morning she would come and meet that student at the front door, and she would take that student either to the cafeteria or to her classroom. So we did go above and beyond, we did make accommodations. There were students who were struggling, and we did try to work either with the parents or with the students to make sure that if they were having any issues adjusting, that those issues were resolved. I can tell you that that happened for probably a couple of weeks. That student now comes in every day without a problem. So if there would ever be something that would happen, we certainly would address it in the office and work with the students and the parents to make sure that the student is comfortable coming into the school and is met with social and emotional needs, having those met.
And am I correct in this? So the students either go outside or they go to like breakfast. So they're not actually going down the hallways to their classrooms, right? They kind of drop their stuff and they go one of two places.
Yep, actually they take their stuff with them.
Okay.
Students, so whichever door they come in, and it's been going very well, they know it's cafeteria or outside. And we always encourage them eat first, then play. So that if they've got, if they're hungry in the morning, they're going to the cafeteria. Otherwise, they're heading outside to play. It makes it a lot easier too for supervision. Then we have additional people in those two specific areas. We're not trying to watch kids all throughout the whole entire building. We've had a lot of success. We actually changed something. In prior years, kindergartners were not allowed to go outside or eat breakfast. They were to sit on in the cafeteria and play with toys. And no one was able to tell me why. So I said, well, let's change that. And everybody embraced it. And it went really, really well that the kindergartners now eat with everybody else, either in the cafeteria or they go outside to play, burn off some energy before school.
Any other follow-up questions for Kim? Okay. And then Josh.
Okay. So obviously safety is my number one priority as this SRO for our school district. And I don't know how long I've been doing this, 12, 13 years. I don't keep track of that stuff. I just come to work and try to do my best. So, but over these 12, years-ish, is it 12 years? Okay. We came in at the same time. So we've had to do a lot of changes just because of the way society is. Every time there's unfortunately, usually an elementary school shooting, then people really react because of our innocent children, and that we make changes as that comes. So state of Wisconsin ended up getting money to create Office of School Safety through DOJ, and then got refunded again. So really, they're just giving us guidance and best practices. They're never going to tell you exactly what to do. They're just saying, this is our best practices. And then consulting with them and going to, conferences and listening to them talk, we're following our best practice, just like most public schools, not all of them. I can't speak for all of them, but I've contacted Rapids, Pittsville, Marshfield, Adams, and we're all doing the same thing. And actually, more of them are more restrictive because we gave that 2-week grace period. I think Marshfield gave it 1 week, like the first week, because it's 4 days, they gave a grace period, but then they cut it off. I believe it was Auburndale, it was kind of weird. So like in this 20-minute window, you drop off here, but if it's this 20-minute window, then you got to drop your kid off here, and they just have, it's a drop-off site basically. So we're following the best practices that is in our guidance as far as new phone face stuff. I don't know. So we're following the best practices and talking with them. And then speaking with the Office of School Safety, what they tell me is we never know what happens the night before. So if there's a domestic or if there's argument at a sporting event, and then maybe that's the next time, or I'll see her there or him there, and we'll argue there. So we're trying to keep that out of our schools. Or even maybe the teachers, have issues at home and they're at work and it's their safe place. We're also protecting them, our staff members too. So having parents drop off reduces the number of adults in our building, which obviously creates safety and security because we know who's in and who's out of our buildings. Minimizes distractions associated with multiple adults also in the classrooms. So I don't think we should jeopardize our safety for a few people, because I got just as many people, if not, calling me saying thank you for what we're doing, and how do we make everybody happy. So we had to do a strengths finder years ago, and I'm a relator, so I relate to, try to figure out everything. I thought it was BS. I stole another book. I borrowed another book, took it again, got the same results. I was like, man, this thing really is legit. So trying to figure out, okay, is there any, where can we help, come together and try to be a team? And for me, safety, I'm just like, I got like a cutoff, like at some point, we just got to say no, right? Because it's for the safety and betterment of our school district. Reading our policy, parents are invited in. Just got to be, I call the teacher, talk to the teacher calls the principal, and principal says, yep, as long as it's not excessive and affects our learning environment. So what's excessive? Everybody's probably got a different interpretation for excessive. But there's opportunity if I feel like we just had Mr. Kreider here talk about, he's been here 2 years, plus 30, talk about how he used Parent Square and then set up a meeting and they got things solved. So there's that communication is there. Now I like listening to Mr. Beckstrom talk. If I set up a Zoom meeting for 30 minutes and nobody showed up, I'd be mad too. I mean, that's just obvious, and I think as administrators, I would be mad that whoever was supposed to be there didn't show up, and I think, they would be mad that that happened. So I think there's opportunities for them to come in through just contacting the teacher, saying, hey, can I come in, discuss this? The teacher says, yep, this is a good time, whenever that time is, prove it with the principal, as long as it's not excessive and fight your, against our educational environment. So I've contacted a lot of other schools who are doing the same thing. A lot of them are more restrictive. I've talked with Nathan, he went to superintendent meeting and said, hey, hit your superintendents up, he did that, same thing. And actually, I think we are less restrictive than most schools because they just do it day one. You're not coming in the building. I could talk forever, but I think I'll just listen for questions and go from there.
Board questions for Josh. And I know you're online. Hopefully you heard a little bit or everything. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. I just think that, ultimately, when you look at schools, when you become an educator or an administrator, or whoever you are in the district, safety is top number one over everything. So, the policy that we have established needs to stay intact because safety is everything.
Any
Yeah, somebody mentioned at one of our discussions that we had recently that we don't need to do this, but restrict parents to coming in because it's Nekoosa. What's going to happen in Nekoosa? We're just a small town. But as we were talking at our last workshop last week, a school district in Maine was being attacked by someone in that district, and they shot a bunch of kids. And it was a small community. So Nekoosa is not out of the question for that to happen. It's a small community, and anybody can get into the building and can do the same thing that they did in Maine. We don't want that to happen here.
I know we've had a lot of discussions the past couple months at this point in time with board members and online. Do you guys feel like you've had your answers or questions answered?
Yes, it's the policy has been in place and it just was not being followed.
That's right.
That's ultimately what this comes down to, is the policy has not changed, it's just being enforced.
Exactly.
And the policy is vetted through law enforcement and everything else, so there's the policy, in my eyes, is valid.
Nathan, any
a note I'd like to make is that this is again, in public education, there are a range of opinions on there. And they're all right. Let's be clear. This is a hard area to be able, and for the parents who are speaking up, like the board received multiple emails from multiple parents today speaking in favor of the policy that you have. You've also heard voices on the other side. And they're all right. They're correct. And people are concerned about their students. We're taking the position that rather than changing the policies, let's work with let's work with parents and families on a one-on-one basis. And we're encouraging people to be, and so the idea of the past practice that was last year, that being able to have a daily parent-teacher visit or something like that, yeah, I can understand that is a loss to be able to go from that to be able to go to what the policy states. There's a real loss there, and there is less contact. I'm fully acknowledging those areas. But just as recognizing that as we're making the recommendation to bring ourselves in line with the recommendations of standard practice in public schools. And it's not with the intent to be able to cause rifts, although understanding that that is also one of the outcomes. And so my recommendation is that as parents have concerns about individual students, specifically ones who show maladaptive behaviors, as were mentioned by Ms. Bakeberg and other ones that have, please contact your principal and work out, because the policy states that you can meet with your parent, you can meet with a you can have face-to-face, you can connect on that. But it just needs to go through the process of scheduling, and the frequency and the time depends on the principal and the teacher to be able to work together that with a parent. And so I'd say that our policy as stated does set guidelines, but let's also recognize this is an emotional issue for many on both sides of it. And that wherever the board takes their case, it is our interest to continue trying to find those connections.
And I think I would like to use that as a segue to look for a motion to continue to support the policy as is, and that it's written and explained.
So moved.
Second.
We should do a roll call vote.
Yeah, Cody?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And I'm yes.
Motion carried. All right. Operational expectations, OE3 treatment of stakeholders. Nathan, if you'd like to read the policy statement.
Okay. Again, I'm working a few different things here. So OE3. Statements. The district administrator shall maintain a district culture that treats all stakeholders with respect, dignity, and courtesy. It's a short statement.
We had some conversations around this in our workshop last week. Specifically talked about the Q12 for employees. I know Keith, who wasn't here tonight, went into depth into that a little bit. We had some questions surrounding that. And then we also found out that got to be renewed in 5 years, because I know the student one isn't being renewed, but they're going to work around that. And then just Gallup training, how they can interpret the Q12 to kind of better the staff and even the students as things progress. So any more discussions?
Yeah, Ethan, I was just going to ask, Audrey had asked, so this was around staff, and I know that there's a parent survey too.
Yes, and that was actually connected. And so there wasn't discussion around that point on our last one, but those results were, if you'll take a look at district administrative evidence of compliance, it says through ongoing Q12 culture surveys, connecting one-on-one with district stakeholders and parent satisfaction surveys. There's a link. And so in the policy there is a link to those satisfaction. We do those once a year, and so that is I didn't elaborate on as there was no question.
But I couldn't access that link. If I could be able to access that link, I would appreciate it. Sorry to interrupt.
So, all right, thank you, Aubrey. We're not going to entertain public comments, but if there is a link that isn't open to the public that's shared for the public, then we'll get that rectified.
Okay, I will work on that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Anything more? Okay, perfect. All right. At this time, I'm going to look for a motion to approve OE3 treatment of stakeholders.
So moved.
First.
Second.
Second. That was Ann. Those all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. OE6 financial plan. Do you have that one on there?
Yes, OE6. So this is statement on this one. Annually, the board will review the multi-year financial plan that is related directly to the board's results policies, priorities, and operational expectations goals, and that avoids long-term fiscal jeopardy to the district. A district self-evaluation will be completed to include a table that outlines the current initiatives as well as documentation to support elements of policy OE6 financial planning.
We got to spend some good quality time with Lynn last week on all of her financial policies. We're going to cover a couple more to finalize the board work or the board meeting tonight. But we got to talk about forecast 5 predictions. It's going to be hard to determine, but it kind of does give us a little bit of example of what to expect. And I know we talked a little bit about strategic planning and then how the WISE Academy is growing, which is absolutely phenomenal to hear. So just want to open up to the board, or even Lynn, if there's anything more you wanted to comment on OE6. All right, I will look for a motion for that then.
So
Second.
Yeah, first by Dave, second by Mark. Those all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you. OE7 Financial Administration. Let's see if Nathan
See if
might
I can
have
keep up with you right there. Hit the wrong
I should have
tab.
brought
Okay.
those with me.
No, I got you. So, policy statement. Annually, the board shall assure that the district administrator has not caused or allowed any financial activity or condition that materially deviates from the budget adopted by the board, caused or allowed any fiscal condition that is inconsistent with achieving the board's results or meeting any operational expectations, goals, or place the long-term financial health of the district in jeopardy. The district self-evaluation will be completed to include a table that outlines the current initiatives as well as documentation to support elements of policy OE7 financial administration.
And it was my perception that an audit is done annually, and it's very rare that they find something, but it happens. Lynn has done an amazing job, and just want to open the floor up for comments, feedback, anything.
Well, and there's third parties that do audits also, so it's internal and external, so there's.
And I can guarantee you, I would never put this district in jeopardy fiscally, ever.
After the one, when we first came in as a.
Yes, 15 years ago was a nightmare.
Yes.
I don't ever want to relive that.
No.
Well, thank you, Lynn. If there's no further comments, I'll look for a motion on OE7.
So
Get it first.
Second.
Second by Ann. Those all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion carried. And our last one here, OE8 asset protection.
Okay. The district administrator will assure that all district assets are adequately protected, properly maintained, appropriately used, and not placed at undue risk.
I was mostly impressed by hearing about the ESSER funds. I think it was handled very strategically, and I know other districts have struggled a little bit with maintaining and keeping that, and I think Lynn did a great job with that ESSER fund.
We did, not them. We did.
Lynn's financial policies and everything intact, but as a district, the ESSER's fund was just strategically placed. I thought it was great work. So, open the floor up for comments or feedback.
Well, I know just, one of the things that we just did was, we talked about asset protection. I mean, part of the reasoning for the new complex is because the previous facilities were allowed to deteriorate to the point where they're no longer usable, and we just can't allow that to happen anymore. We have to make sure that we're planning for the future and maintaining our facilities and continue to keep things in operational conditions.
And the board is well on their way of that with the creation of Fund 46. We have diligently put money in there to plan for the future. We are adamant that what happened in the past will never happen again. We will always be planning 5 years ahead what's gonna happen. That's our job.
So all I have to say is, I thank Lynn for her brilliancy and, for doing a job well done.
And I know we discussed the 0.01
Yes.
on the mod rate, but that is nothing to hold against yourself. So
It's a challenge for me.
it's a 0.01. So I'm gonna end it on that unless there's comments. But I'll look for a motion.
So moved.
I'll second it.
You got a first and a second. Those all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Last one here for governance policy GP7 agenda planning.
Policy statement. To accomplish its stated goals, the board will adopt and follow an annual calendar of agenda items, which includes monitoring, review, and refinement of policies, linkages, and board performance, in addition to evaluation of the district administrator.
I think what it comes down to is accountability, and this GP7 is nothing more than that, keeping everything accountable and everything at base. So unless there's any discussions or feedback, I'll look for a motion to push that for GP7 agenda planning. Do we have a first? Alright, first by Jennifer, looking for a second. Second by Dave. Those all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you, everyone. Consent agenda, employment, Vicki Jacobson, AMS custodian. Congratulations. this month, no resignations or retirement. That's always good to see. And then, Dave, would you mind reading the donations this month?
Sure. We have donations of Visit Rome, Wisconsin, donated $145 to be used for the student lunch debt. Families Helping Families Fund to provide winter gear for Nekoosa students in need. Rome Fire Department donated $1,000. Nekoosa Port Edwards Knights of Columbus donated $250. Dom Tar Advocating for Literacy donated $1,000 to purchase books, $2,000 for the Humke Elementary School Little Libraries for 5K first, second, and third grades. Backpack for Kids, $33 from Romemakers HCE, and $50 from Little Wittenberg. Thank you all for your donations. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Amazing donations to see this month, so thank you again. Big or small, it's very appreciated for our district. Thank you. All right. Minutes 10/25/23 was our regular board meeting. 11/8/23 was our workshop. And then at this time, I'll look for a motion to approve consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Got first.
Second.
Second by Mark. Those all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion carried. And just to wrap things up here, future agenda items, our board workshop is going to be December 6th at 6 p.m. covering academic performance and then OE12 discipline. We're going to revisit some of those things. And then our regular board meeting is going to be December 13th at 6:30 p.m. At this time, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Jennifer, and do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mark. Those all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Drive safe.